Your symptoms matter back.
Hello. Smooth 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. You're most welcome to today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981, Thursday, 8th July 2021, and we're ready to go. Today we're going to be having two eyes of stories with us, or we have with us actually, Ugo Dre. Morning, Ugo. How are you?
Hey, Mrs. Ayo Mario Ese. did I
It's
pronounce it wrong?
okay.
That's the way you sound. I'm Ayo Mario Ese. Morning,
You're
Lagos.
most welcome. Thank you so much. We also have Lakunle Yusuf. Morning, Lakunle. How are you today?
I'm good. Good morning. Good
Excellent.
morning, Ayo. Good morning, Ugo.
Thank you.
Valentine. Good morning. And good morning, the world, everywhere where you are listening to us this
It's
morning.
a morning of
It's
mornings.
a morning of mornings. All right, so you can join the conversation. We're streaming live right now on YouTube. So go on to youtube.com.
Number is 0809-444-0981. Good morning to you.
Am I on my rest? Like Ugo said.
I'm
And I'm
Valentine.
Valentine.
Oh,
I heard the booming voice of Ugo.
yeah.
Good morning. All right, let's start the stories. All right, this morning we'll have the first story from the Guardian newspaper. Ugo, Senate approves Buhari's $6.1 billion loan request. Another request here. They're saying, first of all, it was approved after they considered the report to the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. It was presented by the chairman for the Odia. Please take us through the story.
Yes, Mr. Valentine. Nigeria is borrowing again, and this time around $6.1 billion maximum. Doesn't mean that we have to borrow the entire $6.1 billion. I think in the first instance, it's going to be $3 billion. Before we start to, overreact, this borrowing is not new. It was already included in the 2021
We are
budget. So that reaction, don't waste your reaction. So we have reacted before about this earlier on. I think even late last year. So this is basically not fresh, not freshly approved loans, but fresh borrowing. Today, Nigeria has, I think, total public debt of 35 or so trillion naira when you convert it, and 33, right? So that's about 23% or so of GDP. Now, a lot of people don't like to look at debt to GDP ratio. People think that's kind of deceptive, but in the world of it's the conventional metric that you use now. Another metric that perhaps people would say let's look at more closely is debt service to revenue ratio, which basically in a way tells you how good or bad your country is in terms of the economy and its ability to pay its debt and to drop debts for future generations. Nigeria is currently I think 98 so percent in terms of debt service to revenue ratio. So for every 100 naira of revenue that this government generates, about 98% of it goes to servicing debt essentially. And now this new borrowing that we're getting also has different connotations to it, in case you don't know. For Nigeria's external reserves is actually in a way net positive. Now, what that means is Nigerian external reserve has been under pressure for a while, and that's because of the foreign investors are not coming into the country at all, so they don't make any dollars. So that's why you're actually tapping into the Eurobond market. If we do get in that dollars, it's going to flow into external reserves, and perhaps we might help our liquidity situation. But by and large, Nigeria needs these loans, whether we like it or not. Some of these projects that we've been celebrating, whether it's the rail or Tucano or the roads that you're seeing being constructed every day all around you, this is basically what is funding it. What we want is we don't want too much loans, but even I think it's important that this borrowing is tied to projects that people can actually see and not that it's going into people's pockets.
And that's what Shannon from Liquidity says. There really shouldn't be an issue over borrowing money. What the issue is, what are we borrowing for? How are we making sure the monies being borrowed are used for things that were created for? Are these projects useful or beneficial to economic growth? Finally, what are we doing to ensure we can pay back without breaking our collective hands? Those are the issues.
Correct.
And Mengus Benga says most of the road construction projects currently ongoing have been awarded since the days of President Olusegun Obasanjo. And one would ask, why would projects or such projects take over 20 years to complete? Hence, if it requires this kind of borrowings for these projects to be completed, so be it. State governors are also borrowing heavily as usual, We are fixated at the center while we lose focus on what these governors are doing with their loans. Kudos to go for his well-informed analysis on the issues as against the usual based analysis we've heard. Thank you,
You've heard it in other places.
All right, let's get to the next story. Important matters to discuss here. Health. We've occasionally cried about or cried out about the brain drain, especially in the health sector. First was matching how many policemen to what's number of citizens. Now it's also doctors, how many doctors to citizens. The ratio so far is 4 doctors to 10,000. Are we alarmed enough to take necessary steps to discourage doctors from moving abroad? According to this story from The Guardian, what are your thoughts, please?
I think that we'll look at it from the foundation itself. What capacity do we have to train medical doctors in our universities? We have, I think, 171 universities today in Nigeria. About 39 of them, all of them together, about 39 of them have facilities to train medical doctors. Some of them don't have teaching hospitals, so they do the preclinicals and send them to another university's teaching hospital to train. Okay, so Ondo State today has a University of Medical Sciences. They are struggling to fund it. So when you look at it from that perspective first, we're not training enough. Okay, so we now then go to the ones we have trained. What are we doing with them? Where are they? The average medical doctor in Nigeria, or even the medical student today, is looking towards the 6th year, or worst case 7th year after entering the university, service year, and then plans to leave Nigeria to go and earn more money. As long as the lure to earn more elsewhere is available, nothing is going to make them stay here. Particularly the younger people. The older ones, yes, maybe they would stay, but the younger ones are desperate to leave. We are subsidizing education in Nigeria, whether we like it or not. And it is unfortunate that we are subsidizing the training of this category of people for somebody else to benefit later. So those are the dynamics of this matter, right? Now, here it says that the United Nations says that it should be a ratio of 1 to 600 patients. In Nigeria, we have about 1 to 10,000 or thereabouts. They are overworked, they are underpaid. 4 to 10,000. They are overworked, they are underpaid. The facilities are not there. When they complain, you and I, the government, treat them with, we say, pardon me, I'm going to say to you, are you the only ones? So as long as those conditions happen, at the peak of the pandemic last year, we heard that the United Kingdom headhunted a particular set of medical practitioners from Nigeria. They brought a plane here to elite out of here. Whether that was true or not, that thing, we have that, and so on and so forth. So all these things are the things that are combined together to make this very, very critical. We are in a very dangerous situation. You look at specific aspects of medicine, you struggle to find specialists. A personal experience in this country, only one place we could find one. Guess how the only one comes? He actually practices in the UK. And the hospital in Nigeria puts him on a retainership. He comes once a month. He spends a weekend. So we go to see only on Sundays.
That's the case of most professional doctors, or rather doctors that are specialists in particular fields that we experience. And your case your example is very accurate. But also looking away from just the government angle and education as a factor that got us to this point, there's also the case of management of hospitals. Talk about chief medical directors not having any experience in the medical field whatsoever, or rather having experience in the medical field but have no experience in management. You have certain hospitals that have chief medical directors who are probably general practitioners or specialists in a particular field, but cannot run the hospital itself, and then causing an issue where you have doctors other than employed, nurses, midwives, having to seek solace in other clients, like the example you made. they have complained. I've spoken to, you know, doctors who have been affected and who left the country, and they've given this reason as one of the most.
That is a whole conversation on its own, and this is not just about medical doctors and hospitals itself. It's almost everywhere. For example, you say that I have to be a professor before I can be the chief executive of a university. I have to be a medical doctor before I can be the chief executive of a teaching hospital. Basic management skills to manage what we have.
Somebody listening might say, "Oh, how does this affect the private promoter market?" The example you gave of the specialists, for instance, going abroad for consultancy services is because they have the facilities there, they have the tools for those specific treatments there. We don't lack the capacity to provide these tools here, but running these hospitals know that they need those things, and proper management of the staff is required.
I think we lack the capacity in some areas because these equipment expensive. If you look at the budget, let's even so beyond private and public hospitals, plus the amount of money.
I
And
don't also
other parts of other areas where money is allocated. So we have a problem with finance, first of all. I mean, we talked about borrowing this morning, the government is broke, and we also know where the attention is. It's not really health and education is not really their priority, we're being honest. Do you understand? So that in itself. So in our teaching hospitals were enviable. They used to be amongst the best. Yes, because we used to have people coming for medical. However, it has declined over the years, and it doesn't seem to be of. And by the time we go through today's story, we'll understand why.
Don't forget also that we had a sitting minister who said that if you can't find a place to do your residency, go and learn to be a tailor.
In fact, let me reflect on that. Shegun, sorry, sent a message. Sorry to cut you short, just lacking time. Shegun says, I think the Minister of Labour said that there were too many doctors already actually going to farming. There are so many factors frustrating doctors nowadays, right from the level of internship. Thank you so much, Lakinda. Well thought out analysis. This one from the Guardian newspaper here says on Adeoshun, court says NYSC not mandatory for public office holders.
Drum roll.
All right. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. News came in yesterday evening, and I think that apart from the Adeoshun side of the thing of the story, I think this is actually a lot bigger than what the way it's being captured here, because today and we've always thought, in fact, before now, we've always thought conventional reasoning or perception is that you need NYSC certificate to, maybe work in public office. That's why a lot of Nigerians who school abroad, when they come back, they go for their NYSC, because what your parents tell you, or people tell you is that, you might not, one day they want to make you minister, you won't be able to be minister because you don't have a certificate. And so now, what this suggests is that you actually do not need an NYSC certificate to be in public office.
I know this is setting a precedent.
Exactly. So and if you hear her, it's just that her coach is not here. But something that I read, another version of the story, she actually alluded to this. She said, "Look, she's not just for her; she's done it for Nigerians in diaspora. It's a huge win for them, because what it does mean is that, look, you don't need to come back to Nigeria, to go through mandatory, 1 year NYSC service to, work in public office or of any kind. So because before, your thinking was that once you're done with your schooling abroad, you just come to Nigeria and do that 1 year and suffer with everybody. Sometimes you don't even do it, just go to camp. Once you go to camp, settle anybody you need to settle, and then you go back to your place. Yeah, so I think this is something that people really need to look at again and say, it's how are we all deceived? Like, how come nobody knew that?
Yeah.
Right, that you didn't need it.
And she's not the first person that has been called out for. I know a number of people who have appeared before Senate who were disqualified on the grounds that they didn't have.
That's right.
Exactly.
Ministerial
Several.
A speaker of the House of Representatives was almost handed out of office because of this.
Yeah. So I think that it's just beyond Kemi Adeosun, and I think we should look at it that way. Let's just go back and ask ourselves, like, where do we come up with all this? Like, how come nobody figured this out all the while? Why did he have to be the judge?
We never tested
this. Yeah, it's never been done. Now, but of course, on the flip side of the story is, we haven't still addressed the forgery one.
Yes.
So this did not in any way, make her, said to extricate the forgery issue. I really don't know whether I don't think that the government pursued any criminal whatever against her, because you would have expected that's what would have been done, and then the case would have been proven. But I think they did not. I think Attorney General can decide what cases he wants to go after or not. So that one is still there. So that is still hanging.
So we're seeing newspaper reports as well. Now she's been medicated and she's not giving statements. Like, madam, did you forge?
Because that's a bigger question. Now, just for context, right? For those listening to this conversation, Kemi Adesina, we know he used to be the former minister of finance. And after a month's speculation in the local media about whether her NYSC certificate forged, she was asked to step down. And recall that she got back from the UK. The talk around them was that they encouraged that.
Based on the 1979 Constitution, it doesn't apply to everyone. So what people are saying is that at the time when she went to university, it wasn't required for foreign or people who studied abroad to to do the NYSC. So because what you're saying, Ugo, that's a big statement. So that's what someone is saying, that it speaks directly, specifically on the situation based on the 1979 Constitution.
So the matters of dual citizenship and single,
like I said, I think our legal guys should come out and help explain this thing very well to us.
Somebody will say again.
Yeah, let's be sure. What are we saying? Like, are you saying now that people who school abroad don't need to do NYC, or
maybe
apply to that generation? Like, I mean, let's be very clear as well.
Speak to the ambiguity of our constitution, Punch newspaper has this one. Representatives passed 2021 supplementary budget, raise estimates by 86 billion naira. Here's another amount, enough to cry foul, or just an addition that is well justified? Because the reasons given here, COVID-19 vaccines and some other areas I can't give a hand on it. But Lakule, please go ahead.
Just two reasons really: COVID-19 and security. Convenient items to point to the reason for the supplementary budget. Don't forget, supplementary budgets are not necessarily something new. It happens everywhere. The government, you may have said, this is how much I want to spend in a year in your budget. And then the dynamic of situation of the economics, the politics, whatever it is, might alter those availability of funds. I might have said I need actually 1 million to do something in projection, and then I realized that no, it is 2 million. Then I'll go back for approval for it. So even as this has been approved, it's not it's still a function of the availability of the funds. So here we are, the minister says that or Mr. President says that they are going to source for the former grants, the other grants. This report is silent about, but at least they gave us an idea of where the loans are coming from. Like unlike other times, we just say the verbal and the verbose loan from somewhere. Okay, so I just hope this money will be spent for these two things. Of course, very, like I said, convenience items of national concern. COVID-19, nobody affected. They need to pay the medical workers allowances they promised them, security. They've claimed, they've admitted here that the Navy, police, defense agencies, state security, economic and EFCC are grossly underfunded. This money is going to go to the, at least this admission, we'll put it on, is on record that the government has admitted that they are grossly underfunded. So we hope that this money will go to them. On the last note on this, for me, this is just akin to a parent whose child has come to ask for a raise in allowance. And the first thing a parent should ordinarily do is to ask for the child to account for how he spent the last one.
Provide the receipts.
Exactly, But here we are. When I would assume that when you go for a supplementary budget request, you should come with how I have spent the one that was previously approved, okay? But this report is silent about it, but I hope that that's also been done to justify this.
Thank you so much. Somebody sent a message. I just picked the fire.
Oh,
I saw it with raised gray, and now I see where the wisdom is coming from. Shout out to you.
YouTube.
Yeah, then Prince said, I don't think the amount of budget is the issue. For instance, the health budget for 2021 is about 550 billion naira. I don't think this amount is small if judiciously used. How much of this amount have been or has been released? Budgeting is not an issue. There's no money to be released to fund the capital and the current expenditure. The budget will just be a piece of paper. I know there's a recommendation from WHO of the percentage of the amount. I can't recollect now, but I know that our health sector is underfunded. 550 billion naira sounds like a huge amount of money, but for the number of people in Nigeria, it is underfunded. Let's move on to our next story, Ugo. INEC maintains dead governors, ministers, others on voter register. Punch news for continuous voter registration for 32 months. The Punch reports that their correspondent went through the INEC voter register and showed that several notable people that many of us know have passed on are still on that register. Now, to make a case for INEC, to be honest, as they have highlighted in this report, it is quite difficult to trace because we have a data problem in Nigeria, and that's something we've talked about a number of times. They say they tried to work with the Nigeria Immigration Service and the National Identity Management Commission, NIMT, to try and harmonize data so they know who has passed on, take them off the register, but it's not working for them. Please take us through this, Ugo, and what are the implications of such inefficiencies? If there are notable people that are still on that register, how much more people who are not notable that we can't easily identify?
Thanks, Ayo. I think, just like you said, and to be fair to INEC, it's not really, in as much as it's not an INEC specific issue, it is also not a Nigerian specific issue. I mean, if you recall, last year, even in the US, where they have all the technology in this world, people, in Donald Trump camp were accusing, the other side as Democrats of having, a lot of dead people come vote, right? So, data and digital identity is a challenge, globally. And you ask yourself, in Nigeria today, do we have, a systemic way of recording, dead people, right? So when people die, what typically happens is you take them to the mortuaries, register there. So is it in a hard copy? Has that whole process been digitized? And even if you've digitized the process, how do you know those people? Are they matched to some kind of identity or some kind of number or some kind of database that you can easily pull? Right, so that's and to be fair, it's not. I don't see how much I can do here, and that's why they said, look, it's just an expensive undertaking for them to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there are perhaps other ways that they can, mitigate. One way that I think INEC can probably do this is, what, when it's time for towards the election period, you publicize the list of people that are going eligible for voting in different localities, and let the people there come and tell you who's alive or who's there. And that's why
In
they
a
have,
language they understand.
yeah, that's why they have party officials everywhere, and then they can
Yeah.
come and prove that these people are dead or not, because it's really going to be difficult for INEC to do this. You need a massive central database if you actually wanted to do this, and
Yes.
we all know we don't have it. Even birth records is difficult to have in it. Not that we don't have this data. The data exists. It's just that it exists in a form that you can digitize. So, for INEC or anyone in general to want to access this data, you need to have it in some kind of database. And like I said, it's not just INEC problem, global problem.
It is a global. That's why the identity theft, or you have cases of identity theft in other parts of the world, even in the US, the UK,
Exactly.
using dead people's details. But again, we can't clean up the system because that's what they said they were going to do and minimize the risk in this, in this area. So maybe that's what we're looking to INEC to do. However, Mr. Festus Okoye, spokesperson or speaking on behalf of INEC, had said that people should help them. So if you know people like that, look at the register. If you identify people who are dead, please, let them know.
Yeah, but sorry, but no excuses for them on the other side, though,
Yeah.
because some of the names they called out here are very popular names.
Yes.
So they should also have some kind of internal structure to purge, their database of. I mean, there's some very obvious, deaths that in as much as we are not looking at dead people as just some kind of number, but or try to separate people. Some, there's a bigger dead person than a smaller dead person. But the point is that for optics' sakes, you need to be sure that at least these kind of names are not in your database.
A country that works should have a record of deaths. Based on the fact that you should death certificates.
I've explained to you why it's not there. So it's a coordinated activity. That's why NIN is there. Today now, Valentine, how many people have registered for NIN? There's still like, I think I saw, is it 50 million people or so?
40 million. About 40.
How many? I've seen what they're doing. They're postponing, extending it every month. So at the end of the day, it's everyone. It's all Nigerians. You got to be able to be responsible.
All right, that's the keyword, be responsible. David from Ikoyi breaks it down. Says, according to the judge, that's going to Kemi Odedosun, she was not a Nigerian as at the time she completed her university and just became a Nigerian citizen after she was 30. Hence, did not require NYSC certificate for public office. If she were Nigerian under 30 and schooled in the UK, she's required to come back for NYSC. So just to clarify that.
That's confusing. If you're born in Nigeria, I don't understand.
No, I think she was, we didn't have dual citizenship at the time.
She was born here.
Okay, maybe she didn't obtain her.
Anyway, like I said,
I'm
sure in the next few days people will write out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go to this very interesting story. Lakole Buhari has mismanaged Nigeria's diversity, says Colonel Abubakar Umar. In case you don't know him, he's former military governor of Kaduna State, and he's quite outspoken when it comes to national issues. He's notable for challenging, even though he was serving under the then president, Ibrahim Babangida, he challenged the fact that the June 12 elections was annulled, and now he's spoken out and saying that the president should face bigger issues rather than focus on celebrating the rearrest of Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB leader.
Well, Colonel Abubakar Umar is one of those Nigerians that many of us don't want to hear speak because he speaks straight. He doesn't mince his words. Now, he's spoken about the generality of what the Nigerian environment is like the popular maxim that what our diversity should be our strength in unity. Exactly. That's exactly what he's speaking to here right now, that Nigeria right now is at its most divided along ethnic, religious, tribal, whatever lines, political lines as well. We've never had it this bad. So what he's spoken to is that, in short, he said that the government should stop majoring in minors and minoring in majors. Let us face let's take the most important points. Let's deal with them, and the little problems will take care of itself. That's just the summary of what he said, and I think I agree with him to a large extent as far as that is concerned. At this table, every week, every day, every week, we celebrate things that ordinarily we should take for granted. Right. We should be celebrating the big things that we don't expect, not the big things that ordinarily we take for granted. Exactly. That's where we should be. Yes, it's good that we've not had them before, we're not having them, but
us to sing the national anthem and actually pay attention to the words. Because I feel like we've strayed far away from the values.
All right.
Absolutely.
We have two more stories, but because of our time, so we'll delve into those stories in detail during Lagos Talks 981. I'll just read the headlines. Senate passes bill to allow FCT customary court undertake criminal trials. And NPA, that's the Nigeria Ports Authority, bars on safe trucks from Lagos seaports. Hopefully, this will reduce traffic due to trucks that are breaking down. I think this should be applied across Nigeria because, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Really? You think so?
Like Tom said, let's see how it's not about announcing these.
Announcements are easy.
it's actually implementing.
For the vice president to arrive in the plane again.
All right, thank you so much. We continue with Lagos Talks 981 straight after this. So stay tuned. 8:10, we open the phone line so you can call in to and send in your messages to respond to any of the stories we looked at today. A big thanks to our analyst, Ugo Drake. Thank you very much. And Lakunle Yusuf, thank you for coming this morning. We're Valentine Ogu and
I am Ira SA.
And we'll be back in 9 minutes. Stay